Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our members, fellow participants. Today, we are having actually the joint webinar on ART pilot testing. So just to check if everybody is at the correct session, we'll give it a couple more seconds for the rest to join in. We do have a lot of attendees today. So have a good morning. Okay, good morning, everyone. The time now is 10:32. So in the essence of time, and for those who have already joined us on time, we would like to commence the joint webinar today between ASMI and the Singapore Economic Development Board, EDB, on the ART pilot testing, and more details on the ART later on. In this session, actually, we have speaker from EDB CCO team, who will be bringing us through the overview of the ART, the Antigent Rapid Test, the overview of the ART, the concepts of the ART pilot operations, and addressing companies' expectations about the ART, as well as a Q&A session at the end later. So before I begin, I would like to lay out some ground rules as well. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to lay out some ground rules today. So for some admin matters, for the question and answer session, we will have it at the end of after the presentation. However, throughout the presentation, feel free to actually type in your questions in the Q&A section in the Q&A chat function below. Okay, so as and when the team, if they are ready to address your question or to answer your question, they will do so. And if the speaker would like to pick out some questions for elaboration, he can also do so at the end of the session. Okay, so the run through of the program today, at 10:35, we will start the presentation by our Singapore Economic Development Board CCO team, specifically on the ART, the concepts of ART, and addressing the company's expectations about the pilot implementation. At 11:30, we have our Q&A session and our closing remarks at 12 p.m. later on. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. A. Slow, Assistant Vice President of the EDB Central COVID-19 Operations Team. Ace, you have the floor, please, with your presentation.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for spending time here on behalf of ASMI and EDB. We are glad that you can spend some time with us this morning, for at least for us to go through an overview of what art implementation at your sector is all about. So please bear with me. Without further delay, I will just move on. Next slide, please. Today I'll outline, as mentioned by Daniel, to give you an overview, introduction of art, the overview of art requirements, the mode of art, and the client's journey, and last but not least, the call for onboarding. Next slide. Okay, introducing of ART, Antigent Rapid Test. Currently, we all understand that we are having RRT that is based on PCR concept. So what happened right now is that previously we couldn't do quick testing because this PCR needs to be lab tested, and the result will come in about 1 to 2 days time. With the current new technology of advancement, art came about, and art is able to do quick testing and produce result within about 15 minutes without the needs of lab testing. So this sets the base of the art pilot trial. Next slide, please. Okay, why implement art? Just a quick overview. As of 4th July, M&OE has flagged out there's a 24 active community cluster, as you can see in the map on the right top. It's quite worrying. It's spreading almost all over the place, especially place that is near the region of where the shipyard and workyard is. Okay, so just give you overview. Last year, when the pandemic struck, we were all very worried about workers, migrant workers infecting the community. So that part has been taken care of with a 3 mode of operation. First mode is accommodation, second mode is transport, third mode is worksite. So for migrant workers, they have been taken care of with these 3 modes, meaning from accommodation parts, they are bubble wrapped in the transport and to the workplace. And then from the workplace, after they have finished their work, coming back the same mode with the bubble wrap of transportation and the accommodation. Okay, but as of now, 4th of July, there are outbreaks that is in the community. So what is happening right now is the weakest link that we face in current time is those non-dorm worker that is working alongside with the dorm worker, which is currently in the worksite. Okay, meaning the non-dorm worker, which most likely will be your EP, SP, Singapore citizen, and also your permanent resident. They will finish their work, they will go back to their own resident, and their own resident is sited within the community area. And then they could be infected and then come back again. And this comes to the part where the art kits comes about. So because of the art kits, we are able to test them in the quicker manner, so that before they go into the worksite, we're able to detect, and then we are able to segregate and isolate them accordingly without disrupting the worksite. Okay, and just to give you an overview of why we are doing this is, as I mentioned, the CMP workers, the dorm one has already been bubble wrapped. The non-dorm one is actually the higher risk, the weak link, which we need to look at. And also the adjutant, the art test kit is give us a viable option to help pre-test the thing. Now the impetus for companies to adopt, basically just 3. One is to flag out early warning concept. Because of this early warning concept, we can actually reduce or lower the risk of transmission from the community to the workplace right now. And last but not least, very important, with this additional tool and additional testing measure, you are able to sustain your business in terms of heightened alert or touchwood CB2 and so on and so forth. Okay, next slide, please. Overview of art requirement, for which site that should be incorporated or can partake. Firstly, all shipyard. Secondly, process terminal, and last but not least, process construction site. Okay, for who to take, as I mentioned, the dorm workers has already been bubble wrapped. Now we are targeting at the non-dorm workers that's residing away from the dormitory. Okay, and how we do that with the art test kit? Basically, there is 2 modes. One is to test before you go in. Okay. Test and then wait for the result before you go in. Second is we advocate that because of this art test kit, this test kit, I must say, it is not to replace PCR, it is to complement PCR. Meaning that if the PCR is on the 7-day RRT, we'll advocate on you should take the art on the 3rd or the 4th day. Okay, so that is how we do go about doing it. Next slide, please. Okay, the mode of art operation, basically there are 3 modes. On the pilot trial part, we have 2 modes, which is the administered swab and also the supervised self-swab. Okay, there is a 3rd mode, which is unsupervised self-swab or home self-swab, which is still in the discussion, and it will be post-pilot trial. It will not be part of this pilot trial. Okay, why do we have the first 2 modes? Administrated swab is good for a few reasons. One is for medium to large company, which have a good population of people. The reason is when you have administered swab, you can actually create more lanes, and the people that swab you are trained, and the results that you get is consistent and accurate. Okay, but how do we go about the second mode, which is the supervised self-swab? Supervised self-swab are for people or for companies that has a small to medium company which has a low population, and if they do not have the ability or the so-called the site availability, then they can require or they can adopt this supervised self-swab, so that you can send your supervisor and your swabber for cost also, so that they can administer it accordingly. Okay, so these are the two modes. Next slide, please. Next slide will show you the journey of how the client will go through for any art test or any art performance. Firstly, the workers will arrive on site. Okay, once they arrive on site, they will need to screen through first standard, taking temperature, check whether they got ARI and so on and so forth. Once they log in, they go into the registration counter, verify your personal information. Okay, and once that is done, waiting for their turn, on number 4, they will actually go to the swabbing area where a trained swabber will swab for the worker. Okay, after swabbing for the worker, the swabber will actually mix the swab stick together with the agent, and then after much shaking, you're supposed to drip onto the test kit. Okay, once you drip onto the test kit will be laid on the sampling testing area, awaiting for the result to be out, while the worker will be ushered to the waiting area nearby. Okay, once the result is out, AG negative, the workers will continue as normal to go back into the work site to work. But if it is contacted AG positive, then the worker need to be ushered to the nearest test to take a PCR test for confirmation. Okay, while taking the PCR test for confirmation, while waiting for the result to be out, the worker will self-isolate in their own dormitory or in their own residence until the result is out. If it is a C negative, the workers can continue to go back to work as normal. But if it's a C positive, then the public health action will come into play. Okay, next slide. Mode 2 is the same journey, except that on number 4, instead of being swabbed by a trained swabber, the worker himself will actually swab himself under the supervision of a supervisor. Okay, the rest of the station are the same. Third one. Supervised, mode 3. Mode 3, as I mentioned, this is currently not available, but it is a post-pilot program most likely. So this is what happened that in the steady state in future, we envisage, we think that everybody should do it at home before they even come out of their house. So if it is negative, they can actually go straight to the workplace. Of course, they will show proof, which will be tagged into the certain system that will be forthcoming. And if it is a positive, AG positive, then they will just head straight to the clinic or hospital for treatment or for confirmation. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now having heard that, what I've mentioned or shared, so if the company is interested to come on board, so what is going to happen is that step 1, the company needs to enroll their personnel for supervisor or swabber course. Okay. Step 2, the companies will need to plan the layout, do the recce on site, and then see which is the place that is available or suitable for doing the art con ops operation on the ground. There is a list of IPC checklist that you can match up with, which will help you accordingly. Step 3 is for an employer to work with us to order the art kit. And of course, last but not least, step 4 is for employer to prepare the nomination role or nominant role and for the art attendance to start. So not to worry, these 4 steps steps that is not that difficult to do. That is also one of the reasons why the art team is formed up to help facilitate and guide you along the way to implement the art trial, pilot trial successfully in your work site. Next slide, please. This is some example. To date, we have managed to come on board. Yesterday was 5, today is 6 company. One more company just came on board, Penguin. Okay, so we have literally 6 shipyards in this pilot program, together with 12 sites that they're operating right now. Just to show you a little bit on how they administer the swab, where they administer the place. And this is one of the art kit called BD art kit. which gives you result in 15 minutes. Next slide. Okay, so one of the questions you were asked is how long is this art kit being subsidized by the government? Well, the answer is clear. The answer is 30th of September till the 30th of September. That is the reason why we would like you to register your interest by 19th of July. The reason is clear, because it will take some time to ramp up, to do the preparation, to do the recce, and to ramp up the operation for the start of implementation. And when you start the implementation on the ground, we must also ensure that you roll out properly, and it will take some time, probably 1.5 months to 2 months. So if the end state of subsidies is 30th of September, probably you need to start by then. So we advocate 19 July to register your interest. Once you register interest, we can work together with you. So this will be my last slide. So before I take question or we move on, I just want to reiterate again that the concept of why we are doing this is very clear. Okay, number one, to do pre-testing, to be proactive to detect the virus or the infection. Okay, number two, take the benefit of or the advantage that the government is also subsidizing, fully subsidizing your test kit. Okay, number three, if you send people for training, your supervisor and your swabber cost, they can be subsidized up to 90% of current situation. Okay, but please remember to send SPCR. Then the subsidies will work. Okay. Last but not least, of all the things that I mentioned, take this opportunity to come on board with us. We'll work with you to use this trial to establish a workable plan on your side. Okay, whether we need it in future, or of course we hope we don't need it, because that is once the herd immunity in Singapore has reached a certain stage, perhaps 75, 80, or even 85%, then probably you can lighten up a certain regime of such. That is good for everybody. But just in case that it turns, because the strain now Delta come out, maybe touch wood, hopefully we don't have an echo and so on and so forth. If it comes out and we need to tighten the heightened alert again, or well, the company that has adopted this already have a workable additional measure on site to detect. So we as sector lead, we can actually help advocate and push to the ministry and saying that, hey, they already got additional measure in place, a workable one. So let them continue to operate. So this is what I meant just now by saying sustaining of businesses and business continuity. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you, Ace. Thank you for that presentation. Okay, I do see some questions that has actually been raised, actually has been addressed as well. Like, I just want to quickly run through it for everyone's benefit here. Okay, so I think there was a question on, let me see, for self-swab, who will be the trained personnel? So I think just now your workflow actually elaborated the training required for the trained personnel within the companies. I think the answer here as well from Carl from EDB as well is that once you send your nominees for the supervisor and swabber training, they will be qualified to guide individuals to self-swab. Okay, so that is pretty much very straightforward. I think there's another question from Trisha as well, who has been answered as well. The definition of a medium and a large company, is it based on the number of employees of the companies? So how do companies actually define themselves, whether are they medium or large size companies? I'm assuming this is because they want to know how much trained personnel do they need as well.
Correct. To address this question, basically, we take reference to certain tangible things that we can see. Size of the company by mentioning the participants of art. And also, very important thing is, does the company have a suitable space to perform this art on site? So if you can take reference from that, I believe each and every company will be able to address it accordingly. I give you an example. A company with a small size, maybe 20, 30, but they have big facility, they have a lot of, so they are able to do it on site too. So vice versa. So it is all dependable. We are just giving a tangible way of sizing it up. Once you are interested, we'll work totally work together with you to help you identify those together.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Is. For the rest of the attendees, please feel free to continue sending in your questions. We have a team on standby to actually address them on the chat. We can even raise it up for Is to pick out later on. Okay, just moving on to some of the next questions that I can see here. Does your training provider HMI have enough classes to train so many personnel? Probably you might want to work with them to open more classes. Is, you want to comment on this? Do we have enough?
We have a few examples. Some of the so-called companies that is coming on board, they actually went directly to HMI, and their schedule is like 3-4 weeks later. So when we realized that, we shared with them, said, why not we give it a try. So what we can do is we work with our sister agency. It's not about it's not really about the choke point. It is about class size. Okay, they have a certain class size, then they start the next course. Okay, so if they need to open up more courses, they will, which we are in touch with them. So what we do here is very simple. Assuming that one company can only provide 7 people, but the class size is 15. So what we do is we match with another company because we have the overview. So we quickly match it up to the size and then say, hey, can start one. That was the reason why when it comes to us, we are able to get it within a week, probably the schedule. If not, then maximum 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. I hope we have some value in this.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, just some questions that I think I can answer. So will the presentation slide be shared to us? So yes, after this session, we will reach out to everyone to actually showcase this on our ASMI YouTube page as well. So the recording itself and the slides, I don't know, can the slides be shared? I mean, we did actually earlier share the ERT guide. So the ERT guide is already available. We sent it through the invitation. However, I don't know about the slides. Maybe just now there was a workflow that people can actually further elaborate on, or maybe bring back their companies.
Okay, we have already prepped the slides. What we show is more for presentation. Actually, the slide itself has more details. How to get the cost, what the cost is all about, how much does the cost, each cost, the price is. We have all the details inside. So we will have this deck for sharing.
Good. I think there's a golden question here as well. When do we start? When do we start?
Okay, as I mentioned just now, what we understand is that the pilot trial will cease as of what we know, 30th of September. So it's not a long time to come. If you take it from now, it's about 2 months, 3 weeks. But as we understand, we have already onboard 6 companies. Okay, the timeline for the 6 company can run anything from as quick as 2 weeks, as long as 5 weeks, or even 6. Okay, it depends on the constraint on the ground and a lot of other factors. So my proposition to people or the company that's interested is, don't wait. If you are interested, just back up. Okay, we'll work together with you and see and work out and see the feasibility on the size and the company premises together, so that you don't miss the boat also. So as you come on board earlier, a few things can benefit that can happen. One is, of course, the subsidies for the test kit. Second benefit is that along the way you work out, you realize this work stream is not so good. There is a better work stream. Then the company can streamline the work stream on the ground itself, pertaining to your ground, very unique to your ground, so that this become your ops plan as and when if you need next time to pull it up. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of questions asking on the mandatory or the compulsoriness of this appointment of trained supervisors, right? So maybe you want to share with us, is it really compulsory or is it mandatory for people, especially if I think some of the questions are asking if they're already on the 7-day RRT. So adding this to so-called like a within companies exercise, right? Within companies practice, right? Is it mandatory? So maybe you want to share your thoughts on that.
At this thought, maybe I will get Carl to share. Carl?
Hi. Right now, okay. So this is a pilot, right? So it's not it's not a legislation yet. The whole point of this ART pilot is to get company acquainted with the ART ops. And also to mitigate the current worksite, the transmission risk from the community to the worksite. Okay. So if the whole point of the ART ops, right, is because once a person is um, swapped ART positive, for example, the full public health actions does not come into play as compared to if you have a PCR swab test and you realize there's a negative result, because one day later the individual would have been intermingling with whoever he has been at the work site, and then this results in a whole slew of actions such as a swab work order and targeted swab ops, additional targeted swabbing. And if there are more positive results, right, and then the ring fencing will go larger and larger. So that's why this ART ops is actually to prevent that and acts as a gatekeeping process to safeguard companies to be able to continue their operations. So I hope I answered the question.
Yep.
The short answer is no.
I would like to add on to what Carl's mentioned. This is a somewhat a capability that a company can have. We can share with you this live example. Some 3-4 weeks back, one of the companies that has already adopted ART on site, ART pilot trial on site, one of the ship contacted C+. Okay, you all know what will happen, right? Once you contacted C+, right, everything will corner off. So what the company does is that the company didn't wait for us to issue any stop work order. The company did a VSWO. So they voluntarily stopped work, working together with us. The part of the ship where it was contacted, they asked us permission so that we work together with them. They use the ART kit to swap the rest of the people, about 500 plus workers, okay, over 2 days. Okay, once it's swapped, finish everybody, and everything is clear, they lifted the stop work order, voluntarily stop order, and they continue to work. So what I'm trying to advocate is that if the company have this capability on site to use, they can actually use this one way to use it, so that you don't actually need to wait for public health action to be taken, or say, no need. I have the means. I will do it on my own first. Okay, let me clear this part. Okay, once it's clear, work together with the agency. Okay, continue to carry on. So I hope.
Just to continue, sorry, I think the critical objective here is also to as the country, right, transition towards the endemic phase, is to really protect the work site as the the larger economy and the public sphere is opening up, because we know that once this happens, as we've done with the previous 2 experience when the regulations were relaxed, numbers start ticking up again. So that's what we want to really prevent at the key sectors, right, especially marine, because given that right now, I mean, if you look at the risk factor, the whole of Singapore, marine companies are actually the highest risk. That's why we have 7-day RRT. And yet, incidents such as the recent Westlight incident 2-3 months back, it still happened. So and what happened? It really caused a lot of work sites to stop work, a lot of dorm lockdown, and that's what we don't want to see again. You see. So at the same time, the company, once we move towards the endemic phase, where as our PM and Minister Lawrence Wong and Minister Ong Ye Kong has advocated, more fast and easy testing, which will be more economical to the companies, as well as less downtime involved compared to a PCR test. There might be a possibility that ART tests will be interspersed with a PCR test in a longer cycle, so that companies, it does not disrupt the operations of companies that much. But that being said, companies must have the ability to do it before we get there. So that's why this pilot is very critical in terms of achieving a few objectives. One is to help companies gain the capability of conducting swap operations, whether is it a smaller scale or larger scale, and whether is it for emergency use or for just as a gatekeeping method. Second is to eventually acquaint everybody with the ability to swap themselves using the ART test kit, because we know that the test kit, I mean, it's not very natural for us to have something prodding up our nose, especially when we're doing it ourselves, as it gets uncomfortable. So we might not. So the initial phase, if we are just distributing the kits to every individual and expecting them to know how to self-swap, I think that would be too lofty an ambition at the start, because you have to get used to be honest. So that's why administered, and that's why we are advocating to start with administered tests, and then you slowly move towards supervised self-swap. And when everybody is acquainted to know how to swap themselves, then we can envisage a future whereby everybody swap themselves and upload the results before they come to work. So that's why we want to start with this pilot.
Yep. Yes, thank you so much, Carl and Ace. I think Kunwei, you want to answer one question that has been typed out. There is a question on my company non-dom workers attending ART already once in a week. Should I have to submit the results to EDB through the SRS? Kunwei, do you want to answer this question live? Is it?
Yeah, no problem. Anyway, I couldn't start my video because it was being disabled, but never mind. No worries. So regards to this, there are a couple of ways to submit to the SRS. But for now, generally, you can submit. Employers can submit to the SRS, and thereafter which, right, within 1 hour or so, the individual will receive the test results via SMS with the mask FIN number. So that will help the company or the worker to move across different work sites if there is need to. But actually, by right, we shouldn't be deploying across sites as a precautionary measure. And the ART results is valid for 24 hours.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Kunwei. I think you also at the same time answered a couple of other questions, like for example, if we have trained supervisors and do the ART ourselves, will this result be accepted by shipyard? I'm assuming this is assessed into shipyards. So I think Kunwei, you addressed that actually they are allowed to present this, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, just to add on, because the results, right, will eventually, once uploaded, trickle down to the system, such as the Health Hub and as well as the FW Mum Care. So that's why these results will be shown in the apps as a verification for workers who need to enter various work sites within the allowed time frame. Yeah.
Okay. There is one question here as well. Those non-dom workers includes office staff. That means not on production sites, not on the shipyards or external, just for the internal staff, office staff.
We are concerned of is sorry. Anyway, since I'm muted, right? Marcel just answered this. So what we are concerned with are people going into the production area of the shipyards, and this ART are meant for non-dom workers because of the current threat levels as we introduced at the start of our webinar. So therefore, it is critical that our work sites do additional testing for non-dom workers or visitors, especially visitors, because they are not based most of the time at the work site. That is living in the community. They are living in the community, entering the work site, production areas of the shipyards.
Yep. Thank you, Kunwei. The next one is actually quite a valid question here, is what happens if it's positive? So what happens if the ART swap done by their own trained colleagues, okay? What happens if it's found positive? Does the swap team themselves have to be quarantined? Of course, the person has to be reported as well. Maybe someone want to elaborate this, Ace or Kunwei?
No problem. Maybe you all can add in later. Let me just go through it. I did mention just now that once a person who is tested AG positive, okay, the person will be escorted straight away to the nearest sesh. Okay, at that clinic, the person will need to take a PCR test. Okay, while we're waiting for the PCR test, the person will be self-isolated until the result is out. Okay, so once the result is out, if it's a C negative, the person can, the worker can go back to as norm to work, no issue at all, but just to monitor. But if it is C positive, of course, the standard public health action will take over. I hope that clarifies.
Yep. Thank you, Is. Okay, maybe the last few questions. Will the RRT be phasing out with the new practice of this pilot ART?
So the question is not RRT be phasing out. The question is, will PCR be phasing out? Is it?
Yep, I think so. Yes.
Okay. This is one of the possibility that the government agency is exploring, which is they're still exploring. So I would just say this as my own opinion. It could be that it could be a PCR be replaced by ART for many reasons. One of the reasons is that ART doesn't need a lab to produce result. ART produce results in 15 minutes versus 1 to 2 days. ART cost is a fraction of a PCR cost. Okay, so even if you test more, it still makes sense. But the question now is that what is the efficacy that is acceptable for us to accept the reduce in the efficacy rate or the so-called gold standard versus the other standard, which also ties in together very neatly with the herd immunity of the whole nation. If the immunity of the whole nation, aka that a lot of people have been vaccinated, double vaccine after 14 days, then this could basically build the herd immunity so that we can accept this reduced standard. No need to go for gold, maybe now go for silver. So this is still in the pipeline. It's a possibility in future you can do it. Coming to why I'm sharing this is because if you know that this most likely will be coming, and you can take this opportunity right now to set up an art offsite in your facility, and of course mostly being subsidized or funded by the government. So in times to come, if there's this switch or this possibility of replacing it, you are actually ready. No? You don't have to send busload by busload, especially those in Jurong Island. Sometimes they come to the island, mainland still not enough, must go all the way to Pasir Ris, the source center to do. It is a lot of time wasted, intangible time wasted, plus a lot of money being spent by the company. So yes, possible. This is one of the possible way to look at it, but how it evolves in the future is still evolving. So at the moment, just take it as it is.
Yep, we will wait for more advice from the CCO team as well. Thank you, Ace. I think there's a question here on the positive ART results just now, right? So who's gonna be the one actually escorting the personnel who is positive, or does the personnel go themselves, or the trained swabbers?
It is clear that the employer of that employee will administer that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Not to worry. Inside our deck is self-explanatory in detail.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Sorry. Can I jump in here on this?
Sure.
So when there is a AG positive discovered on site, the work site. Okay, so for any companies which conducts ART ops through the administered swab, there's an isolation area. So the AG positive will go to the isolation area to wait out. The AG positive worker himself or the company, or even through the site occupier, can arrange with dedicated private transport, which we will make known of all these details when the company is coming on, for the person to be conveyed from the current work site to the identified or selected SASH clinic to do the confirmatory PCR swab test. Thereafter which, after the swab test is done, the worker is supposed to self-isolate in his own accommodation. If the accommodation is not suitable for isolation, that is no ensuite toilet and in a room by the worker him or herself, then there's possibility to the SASH clinic to call the MOH to arrange for a swab isolation facility for the person to stay until the PCR swab test result is known.
Yep, perfect. Thanks, Kunwei.
Yep.
Thank you. Ace and Kunwei, actually, if you all just go through the Q&A that you feel that you guys want to address, it's quite important to address. You all can go ahead and feel free to do so. I'm just going to continue asking some questions if you guys are okay with that. Yep. So I have a question here. If our engineers done their ERT on the 3rd day of the RRT, but the service job requires to be completed in 3 days, noted that ERT lasts only 24 hours. Does that mean they need to do the ART on all 3 days to enter the yard or the work site?
I answer.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So if they are on 7-day RRT, okay, for 7-day RRT, which is for all marine workers right now, the only requirement is that to show that you have done an ART on day 3 to 4. While we said that ART results are lasting for 24 hours, it is meant for those workers who are not on RRT.
Okay, that's clear. Yes.
Yep.
So for people who are not on RRT.
Yep. However, we have actually, EDB has actually aligned with MPA on the ART requirements for any shore-based personnel that needs to board vessels at the anchorage or out at sea. So the ART requirements at the yard and at the anchorage or the out at sea are similar. So on this note, I might as well answer Miss Low, I think Nyang Low's question, whether if we go to another site, do we need to do another ART? So of course, I want to just mention again, firstly, workers are preferably not to cross-deploy across sites. But of course, we know there are like delivery personnel who needs to move across sites, right? Then what do they do? So if they are already on RRT and they can show that they have done the ART in between the which is a day 3 to 4, then there is no need to do another ART. However, if the site occupier requires you to do an ART, the site occupier has every right to do so because this is their way to mitigate risk of any workers going into the production areas. What we are stating here are the bare minimum requirements. Yeah.
Understand. Thank you so much. Okay, maybe the last few questions, so sorry. After the self-administered swab is completed, the supervisor will submit the results. I think Ace, you already addressed this earlier on. The trained personnel can submit it, and the employer of the employee also should be the one submitting it.
I think I can further elaborate. I think based on what Kunwei mentioned at the start, right now there's already a new result submission feature via the SRS being rolled out, where during the ops, right, once the result is made known, the supervisor can so every individual who undergoes the test will create a profile on SRS with his unique identification number, NIC or FIN, as well as their verifiable mobile number via OTP. So once their results are known, the supervisor will scan the profile, right, and upload the results accordingly. Meaning the test kit that he's used and the results, whether invalid, positive, or negative. And then, I mean, of course, if it's negative, individual will be able to proceed to the work site. But of course, if it's positive, I mean, the scanning right here is not the most important part, where the AG plus actions will actually come into play. So yes, there is already a system right now where the results are immediately uploaded, and eventually the statuses will be reflected in the various apps that I've mentioned earlier in this, which is the FW Mum Care as well as the Health Hub. Yeah,
Perfect.
thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I think Ace, do you have anything else that you want to pick out, or if not, I will actually leave it for you to do any more closing comments, or maybe Kun Wei, you want to share any closing comments to this before we wrap up the session?
Sure. I just want to thank everybody again for taking time off to listen to our sharing. Art is an initiative that the government brought across just recently, and the intent is very clear. The intent is to explore how art can actually assist the worksite, so as to set it up, and then at the end of the day, to have an additional measure of testing or detecting, so that the worksite can actually continue businesses if the times arises. So with that, I would really like to invite and encourage all companies to give a thought to this. Let us know how we can help. If there's any more queries, please don't please don't stop to let us know what are they. We will do our best to help you clarify them. And if you come on board, rest assured that the art team is already set up to help you along the way to ensure that the implementation is successful. Okay.
Thank you so much, Ace. Yeah. So before I actually wrap it up, I know there are actually.
Sorry, Daniel. Can I just? Do we have time?
Yes, we do.
I think we have
Wei,
about 12 minutes, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I saw that there are still open questions. Since we have time, can I have the liberty to just quickly run through the questions, please?
Please.
Okay. So Ghazi, you asked about this visitors ad hoc testing. Who to ensure? Just to recap. The employer of the workers who are entering via the ad hoc test regime has to ensure if there's a C+ found that involves these non-regular workers, as you term, or visitors, and is determined that he didn't follow up with the 5 to 7 or day 11 swab test, the company and the individual will be taken to task for not adhering to the M&O SMM. As to whether shipyard don't have further information, I would strongly encourage every member here should know who enters your site, and there's some form of information, contact information to be known. I understand that there is this PDPA concern. We have clarified with PDPC, Personal Data Protection Council, that sites can obtain or retain some form of contact information because when there is contact tracing, there is a need to contact all these companies so as to have a faster ring fence of the any possible infection. So take note, members here, the companies just can keep or ask for certain information that but not excessive information at least to contact the person. Okay. After the self-administered swab is completed, the supervisor will submit the result. So typically that will be what the company SRS administrator will submit to SRS, and then you get this sorted out. Okay, in terms of getting the SMS result that we talked about. I think the engineer ART, I think this is done already, is answered already. How do we inform the authorities? ART, okay, so in ART on site, there is no C+, it is AG positive. So ultimately, when you upload, the members upload the results into SRS, the AG positive will be picked up. That's one. Second thing is that we are asking the companies to submit via Form SG for the moment on your ART results or ART swabs that's been done during this pilot trial, so that we ensure that no information is lost and that we can track if there's any companies that has AG+ on site, and we will work with the AG, with the companies with AG Plus on how to deal with the situation if there is still query. Okay. With the nature of contractor might attend different work sites and all those, streamline this process. So as mentioned, if the worker has a valid ART swab test received via SMS, the other work sites should not be asking for another ART to be done. However, if the site needs the person or worker to do another ART for their own safety and COVID safe requirement, that's something which we need to let the site's occupier take precedence over what is needed. Okay. Huilian asked about mandatory. I think that's been answered. And that is the basis of why we are trying to implement ART on site, even though we have not enough manpower. And that is because ART can be done by oneself. And at the moment, of course, because as what ACE has talked about, self-swabbing is a very unnatural movement or unnatural action for an individual to do so. Hence, for the moment, or at least 1 or 2 times or 2 or 3 times, we request that companies get or send 1 or 2 employees to be trained and supervise how the person does the own swab. And this is something which I subsequently, after 2 or 3 times, the own individual should be able to do the self-swab by him or herself. Request for swabs to be presented to us. I guess you are asking for the kits to be delivered to you. For those who come on to this pilot trial, there is, as I think is mentioned, the kits are being subsidized until 30th of September. And then thereafter which we will, after pilot trial, the subsidy may still continue, or the government may decide that the company will have to take on this cost. But the ultimate aim, as mentioned before, is that the companies can take this opportunity where kits are subsidized now to build the capability of ART, because moving forward, the testing requirement could be using ART rather than the PCR swab test to be done at RSC. Okay, so there's something which companies should see that as an advantage to build that capability now, before the subsidies for the kits are withdrawn. Okay, there's a question by an anonymous attendee asking about 2 swab tests done within 1 week. Is there a long-term effect of these tests on our nose? I'm not a public health expert. I'm not a medical product practitioner. But as far as I know, PCR swab test is 5 cm up the nasal passage. ART is 2.5 cm up the nasal passage. So you should be reaching somewhere here for ART, whereas for the PCR is all the way behind. I guess, MOH will not recommend any RRT requirements that will do harm to the individuals. However, if the individuals display any ARI symptoms, and example like blocked nose or running nose, but don't declare, and then is being swabbed, because by right, any individuals with ARI symptoms shouldn't be swabbed and will have gone to a SASH clinic for further evaluation. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. There is one more, I think just came in, need to be physically to monitor ART swab or done remotely. Okay, so there are, so currently right now, right, to physically monitor or not, what we are trying to advocate to companies is up to a company's prerogative to determine. But of course, best is on site, because then you can go and help lah. But to go and help the person, the trained swabber or trained supervisor needs to be in full PPE, face shield, fitted N95 mask, gown with a disposable glove. The fitted N95 mask, it is as per standard MOM requirements for PPE certification. So every year, the individual must have a valid certificate to show that the person has a fitted 995 certification. And cannot just be, I do my fitting test by my own. And yeah, so this is something which please be mindful of that. Okay, so that's one. Done remotely, there is a possibility to do video calls in a way, because now we live in the age of technology, right? So that something is possible. And that is what we term as supervised self-swab, but with virtual monitoring lah. Okay, so that's possible. Okay, the supervisor training course for ART, maybe Ace, you want to jump in, because I can't remember the subsidized cost fee for the supervisor or swab training based on SDF is up to
either 80 or 90%, depending on which course.
Yeah, what's the absolute amount? I think it's less than $100.
20 something and 30 something after subsidies.
Yeah.
So the original amount is almost $200 for swabber, 200 plus for supervisor. So if you reduce it down, it's about $20 to $30 after subsidies.
Yep. Okay. Some question in the chat box by Pauline. Where can trained swabber go for mask fitting? If I'm not wrong, the course in the trained supervisor and trained swabber will already teach you how to do mask fitting. But however, I think the certification for the mask fitting is given or issued by those appointed contractors. So, for example, if you get some 3M, I mean, I'm not citing just 3M, but I'm just saying, because for myself and my team, we engage a 3M dealer who is able to conduct the certification, and thereafter which we receive e-certificate that we are fitted, and that certification lasts for a year. Okay. To clarify, all production modules currently on 7-day RLT will have to do another 3. Yes. So it's not all production site workers. It's non-DOM production site workers are strongly encouraged to do the ART every on the 3rd or 4th day. This is again, to recap, the intent is to protect the work site from community infection. Okay. Escorting one, I think asked already. All this done already. Okay. Okay. I think the one on, if someone found ART found positive, I think that was not being answered. And also positive, does it mean the whole swab team or members required to be quarantined? For now, our understanding is if the trained supervisor or swabber stands at least 3 meters away with the required PPE, which I mentioned just now, which is for supervised self-swab is only at 3 meters, at least 3 meters away, and not in the direction of the worker, is by the side, 90 degrees across. Wears face shield and surgical mask, then there is it's not likely to be quarantined. If you are going in to help the worker swab, then it must be face shield, fitted N95 mask, gown, and the gloves, the disposal gloves. If the interview by the contact tracing teams found that the trained swabber had adhered or worn or donned the PPE properly, it's like no difference from any healthcare worker who is doing the trained swabber. The person shouldn't be quarantined, but may be put on some form of surveillance every other day to check whether the person is well or not. Okay? Ken? Yep. The ART results, as long as it's done and you can show proof that it's done properly, the shipyards or other work sites should accept your ART result. Therefore, that is why we are requesting that the companies come on and do an upload to SRS or FW1 Care app so that you have some form of proof that the ART has been done. Okay. Okay, Siu Tiam asked, DIY test kits come with serial number to prove. Don't have. They only have a batch number per, I think, in the box. So for now, we are looking at, okay, so one of the way that we are working still is that for all the test kits, right, on the test kit itself, do mark with a permanent marker with the worker's initials and the test date. Take a snapshot of that kit with the details, and if possible, because some of the DOMs are doing that now, is that to do a short video of the person doing that swap, okay, to show that it is done properly lah. Okay, Ken. Yeah. Right. I think that's all the questions, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much all the questions, Kunwei. Thank you so much for that.
Yep.
I think there were last few questions in the Q&A, like are they authorized to give training for supervisors?
Okay, I can answer this one. So what's happening is that when you send, there's a list of under HPB approved vendor that you can go to for this training. So once you go for this training, which is currently under HMI, you'll be authorized a certificate of a participant and subsequently able to perform the job, the task.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So I think that's all the time we have for today, actually. Thank you so much, ACE and the EDB CCO team, actually, for being here to sharing their insights, as well as this pilot program, encouraging companies to actually join and participate as well, starting their trainings and their appointments. So we will be sharing this recording after we edit it and clean it up a bit. And to those questions that we require further addressing, we will share it with the EDB team to actually address them. We do have your contact details that if we need to reach out to you, we will be reaching out to you members directly as well. I don't have anything else further in that. Thank you so much for today's session. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you to the EDB and ACE team as well. Ace and Kunwei, as well as Carl, thank you so much for being here, and to our members for joining in. Do look out for more of such sessions in the future, and stay safe, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.